What's up YouTube? My name's Riley. I'm an ACE certified personal trainer, and in this week's video, I want to talk about ways to better support your 3 psychological needs as described in the theory of self-determination. And those needs are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. In last week's video, we talked about motivation using the theory of self-determination in more detail and how you might categorize what kind of motivation you currently have. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, I might suggest pausing here, going back and giving that a quick watch before continuing with this video. If you did see last week's video, then you're totally ready to continue watching this week's video. When our 3 psychological needs are being met, we achieve intrinsic motivation, which is the most stable, durable, and long-lasting form of motivation with which people have the greatest success. So let's begin by talking about autonomy. Autonomy is control over what you do. It's the freedom of making choices for your goals, your tasks, how you're going to execute them. And more specifically, you're not being forced to do something and someone isn't deciding the entire process or situation or goal or task for you. You have control over it. Unfortunately, in life, we can't always control every situation or all of every situation. When that's the case, it's important to look for some aspect of the situation that you can take control over. An example I like to use is when I was in college, I had to cook myself breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I didn't really know how to cook, and it was not something I wanted to do, but it's something I had to do to avoid the punishment of starving or being chronically hungry. To support my autonomy, I decided that I would cook things that I wanted to eat, things that I hadn't tried, things that sounded fun or interesting. In doing that, I took control of a small part of the situation of having to cook those 3 meals a day. And while it was not a totally autonomous situation, it did help support my need for autonomy. Another example might be commuting to work or commuting to the gym. You might not like driving very much, but it's necessary for your job or it's necessary for getting to the gym. So to help support your autonomy, you might decide what music's playing on the radio. That's taking control of a small part of your commute. You might decide what route you're going to take to work or to the gym. It could be more scenic, it could go by your favorite restaurant or coffee shop, or you can stop and get something. Again, you're taking control over another part of your commute. And the more parts of those necessary tasks you can take control over will better support your need for autonomy. Another situation might be working on a group project in school or at work. Whatever that project might be, it should be collaborative, meaning that everyone has a voice and a say in the situation, what's going to happen. And while you might not have complete control over how the project turns out, having it being a collaborative effort does still support your autonomy. A similar situation to this might be working with a personal trainer in reaching some health or fitness goal. Whatever the program or the goals are that are set with your trainer, it should be collaborative, meaning that you are a part of deciding what those goals are and how you're going to reach them. Another important thing to consider when looking at autonomy is the attribution theory of motivation. And that's where you make an explanation of why things happen in your life. And there's several different forms of attributions that can be made. There's internal and external attributions. Internal ones you have control over, external ones you do not have control over. There's also stable and unstable attributions. Stable ones will always happen the same way. Unstable ones might happen the same way, they might have a different way. These attributions we make over events in our life are really important for supporting our autonomy. If something happens in life and we decide that it's an external, meaning out of our control, and stable event, it means that we can't affect the outcome of the event no matter what we do. It's outside of our control and nothing we do will make any difference. That's very demotivating and takes away all of our autonomy. We have no choice in this situation. We can't make any sort of difference or change. But if we can change that attribution to being internal or perhaps internal and unstable, then it's something that we do have control over. It is something that changing our efforts, changing how we approach the situation, taking action can impact and make a difference in the situation. And making that difference in attribution, deciding whether it's something that is outside of our control and will never change, or something that's within our control and is changeable, helps support our autonomy. Because we feel like we can make a difference. We can take control of the situation. We can control and decide what we will and won't do. And so when we take control of more and more parts of necessary goals or situations, when we continue to collaborate with other people involved in a project as much as possible, so our voice, opinion, and ideas can be heard, and when we make attributions that something is within our control and is changeable, all of these things come together to help support our psychological need of autonomy. To summarize the different ways we might support autonomy, you would try to take control over more and more parts and pieces of necessary situations, tasks, or goals like commuting to work, cooking for yourself, or perhaps working with a trainer. In group settings or situations where you're working with another person or perhaps with a group of people, you should try to be as collaborative as possible on how the project, goal, or task is going to play out so that your voice, opinions, needs, and ideas can be stated and help support your autonomy. And lastly, making attributions about different situations or events in your life that are internal, meaning within your control, and perhaps unstable, meaning that you can change the outcome of the situation. Your efforts can make a difference, or that the situation is stable, that your continued efforts will result in continued success. And all of those things come together to help support your psychological need of autonomy. Our second psychological need of competence is sometimes also called self-efficacy. And this is a belief in one's ability, knowledge, physical capacity, and skills to achieve or accomplish whatever they're setting out to do on their own. Self-efficacy is probably one of the strongest psychological markers of success. So it's really important that we try to support our competence or self-efficacy. The first thing that you can do to help support your competence is set goals that are within or on the very edge of your physical ability, knowledge, or skills. Set a goal that's appropriately challenging. This helps ensure that you have the necessary means or are capable of improving on your existing skills, knowledge, and ability to reach those goals. If you set a goal that's far beyond your skills or knowledge or physical ability, that undermines your competence or self-efficacy. If we have set a goal that is within or on the very edge of your physical ability, skills, and knowledge, the next thing we can do is look at the 4 different sources of self-efficacy. The first one being past experiences or performances. Have you ever done something similar to what you're trying to do now? And how did that go for you? Were you successful in accomplishing that goal? Maybe you ran a lot of track and field in high school, and right now you're trying to work up to running a marathon. Thinking about those past experiences in track and field, maybe running a 400 meter or a 1600 meter, reliving those past experiences or performances will help show you that you are capable, that you do have the ability, that you can achieve and be successful in whatever you're setting out to do now. The second source is vicarious experiences. This can either be done by watching someone in a similar situation to you achieve the same or similar goals. If you're trying to run a marathon and you go see someone who's at your same age, same physical ability, also train and work towards a marathon, that helps build your self-efficacy, your competence, your belief in your own physical ability to run that marathon. Or perhaps it's an imagined experience, imagining yourself going through the training and running a marathon and being successful has been shown to help boost your competence and self-efficacy. So either of those vicarious experiences, whether it's watching someone else be successful in the goals you're trying to accomplish or imagining yourself being successful in those same goals, both of those help support your self-efficacy or competence. The third source is verbal persuasion. A better way to think about this is positive feedback. After a performance or making progress towards some goal or task, getting feedback on what went right, what went wrong, where you might make improvements, all helps support your competence. Having that outside perspective, noticing your progress or change in your situation, helps boost your competence and self-efficacy by validating your own efforts and progress towards reaching whatever goals you're setting out to accomplish. And the fourth source is physical or emotional and mood state appraisals. A physical state appraisal that someone might make while exercising is that because they're out of breath, because they're sweaty, they must be out of shape. This is really negative self-talk. A better interpretation of those bodily sensations would be that because you're sweaty, because you're out of breath, you must be working really hard. You must be working towards accomplishing whatever that health and fitness goal is. And so making physiological state appraisals, interpreting how your body feels while doing something, to put it in simpler terms, is more about doing it through an optimistic, positive lens than a pessimistic, negative lens. It's about creating positive interpretations of sensations while doing whatever task it is you might be setting out to do. Emotional and mood state appraisals are less about interpreting the sensations differently than they are about shifting where you are to a better place. Feeling nervous, stressed out, or anxious before a big presentation or some sort of sports competition that you're going to be playing in is a totally normal thing. But when we have those sensations, it erodes our competence, our belief in our abilities. We start to second guess ourselves. Why am I feeling nervous? I've done this 100 times. I think we've all heard the bit of advice to imagine people in their underwear when giving some sort of presentation or performance. And that's to reduce your nervousness, to reduce your anxiety, and increase your confidence and how comfortable you are in the situation. The same thing goes with mood state and emotional appraisals. We want to recognize that we're nervous or anxious or stressed out, and we want to try to minimize those negative emotional and mood states and elevate more positive ones, like confidence, self-efficacy, and feeling comfortable in the situation. To summarize the ways we can support competence or self-efficacy, we should first set a goal that is within or on the edge of our skills, knowledge, or physical ability. This helps ensure that the goal or task is appropriately challenging and that we can succeed at accomplishing it ourselves. Once we've set an appropriate goal, we can then look at the 4 sources of self-efficacy. And that's our past experiences or performances. That's vicarious experiences, whether by watching somebody else or by imagining a situation. That's through verbal persuasion, when an outside perspective gives us feedback on our progress or change in working towards something. And physiological state and emotional mood state appraisals, interpreting our bodily sensations in a more positive way and moving from negative emotional and mood states towards more positive emotional and mood states. In doing all of these things, you help support your competence or self-efficacy and move towards a more intrinsic form of motivation. And our last psychological need is relatedness, where you meaningfully connect with other people in your social environment or social situation. It might be the workplace, it might be the gym, it might be school. Whatever it is, you feel a connection to the people around you and you feel like you belong and contribute to the group as a whole. In certain social settings like school or work or perhaps a group exercise class, accomplishing that sense of connection or belonging and contributing to the group is a lot easier than other situations where you might not have as big of a social circle to interact with. Some social support strategies might be finding a partner that shares your goals or tasks that you're setting out to accomplish. Having that partner on your way to accomplishing your goals gives you that connection that helps support your relatedness. You can also ask friends or family to be supportive of whatever goal you're setting out to accomplish. I will say, though, that you need to be careful about which friends or family you include in your process. Whoever you choose to be that support person, you should make sure that they have your best interests at heart and truly want you to succeed. You don't want to ask a negative or pessimistic person to be that social support for you, because over time, they will slowly tear you down. You can also ask that same friend or family member to remind you of your goals and keep you accountable of accomplishing them. Talking with someone else about your goals can help make them more real, but it also gives you that social factor and accountability to connect with other people around you and support your psychological need of relatedness. If you're in a situation where there's other people, perhaps they're at school or work or a group setting, Arrive early and stay late so that you can talk to people and help build a sense of community and belonging to those that you're going to be working with day in and day out. You can also look for social liberation, which just means engaging with other people that are modeling or doing the behaviors or goals that you yourself want to be doing. Because being around others that share a common goal or interest helps build your relatedness and sense of belonging and connection to them, as well as helping to establish social norms around the new behavior or goal that you're working towards, helping set you up for success. When you employ the social support strategies of finding a partner that you can work with and alongside as you move towards accomplishing your goals or tasks, when you can find friends or family that will support you as you move towards accomplishing these goals, or perhaps someone that can keep you accountable and remind you of what you're working towards and why you're working towards it. All of these things, whether in a group setting where you can make connections with others working towards common or similar goals, or individual settings where friends and family are supporting you and keeping you accountable, will help support your psychological need of relatedness. To go over everything one more time, autonomy is better supported when you can take control over parts and pieces of necessary situations and goals, work collaboratively with others to express your needs, opinions, and ideas, take complete control over a situation or goal, and make attributions, which are explanations of why things happen, that are internal, meaning within your control, and either stable for continued success or unstable, meaning that you might have failed in the past, but you are capable of making change to be successful in the future. Competence is best supported by setting goals that are within or on the edge of your skill, knowledge, and physical ability. When you set these goals, you can further support your competence by reliving past experiences and performances in similar situations, having vicarious experiences either by watching others or imagining yourself in the situation, through verbal persuasion, which is an outside perspective giving you positive feedback on what you've accomplished and acknowledging your progress and change towards reaching a goal, and physiological, emotional, and mood state appraisals that interpret physical sensations as a positive result of your efforts, and emotional and mood state appraisals that shift away from negative mood states and emotions towards more positive mood states and emotions. And our relatedness need is best supported when we find connection with others, whether in a group setting with people having similar goals or interests, or individually with friends and family being positive support and keeping us accountable of reaching our goals. In our example goal of getting 7,000 steps daily, I chose to do so for the health benefits and outcomes. My enjoyment in the activity was relatively low, but I was doing it willingly, meaning that my form of motivation was identified regulation, a form of extrinsic motivation. And while this is a pretty high form of motivation, we could still shift it more towards intrinsic motivation. For this example goal, I would suggest making it more enjoyable and shifting the motivation from the external health benefit outcomes towards a more internal self-satisfaction. And I would do that through the relatedness psychological need, as currently I'm taking those 7,000 steps daily on my own. If I could find a reliable partner to walk with, I believe the motivation could shift even higher. I hope you found this video helpful in working towards accomplishing whatever New Year's resolutions you've set out to accomplish. Between now and next week's video, try to employ some of these strategies to support your 3 psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and see if you can't shift your motivation from a lower form to a higher form. In next week's video, we'll talk about barriers, lapses, and relapses as we work towards accomplishing our goals. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.